Maybe. Oh my God. What? Yeah, I didn't have my glasses bowling last night either, and that explains my 60 in the second game. No, that's not called bowling. That's hoping you're going to hit something when you throw the ball. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Now you get a chance to speak.
Recording in progress.
I'll make this short and sweet. I'm very humble to be here. This is I don't know, I'm speechless right now. This is a unique opportunity to be working with an agency like District Hot Springs Police Department. I worked with many people from my previous jobs, and I never worked with the group that I currently work for right now. So I'm just stoked to be here right now, and I hope I'll be able to serve the community to the best of my ability, be an asset to everybody, and whenever help is needed, I hope I'll be there as long as I'm given that opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, next, I'm going to be introducing Crime Scene Investigator Jocelyn Harris. Please welcome Crime Scene Investigator Jocelyn Harris. Jocelyn was originally from Huntington Beach, California, where she grew up playing a variety of sports. She went to Arizona State University on a volleyball scholarship and graduated magna cum laude with a major in psychology and a minor in forensic science. CSI Harris continued her education at the University of California, Irvine, where she obtained a master's degree in legal and forensic psychology, criminology. She is currently pursuing a second master's degree from Arizona State University. In her spare time, Jocelyn enjoys watching New Orleans Saints football and the Los Angeles Angels baseball team. Obviously, she needs a better choice with football, but she enjoys visiting and exploring national parks and is an avid reader. Come on up, Jocelyn. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Jocelyn. I am so thrilled to be here. I have never been in a city that everyone is so cohesive and works as a unit. I'm really looking forward to kind of bringing some new blood into the CSI department, some new knowledge, some new techniques, and I'm really hoping to let the evidence speak.
We're going to hold this one off. Community Service Officer Adrian Cortez. Please welcome Community Service Officer Adrian Cortez. Adrian was born in El Centro and raised in Coachella, California. CSO Cortez graduated from Coachella Valley High School, where he was introduced to law enforcement by volunteering with the Coachella Police Department as an Explorer Cadet. He has worked throughout the valley in several security loss prevention jobs. CSO Cortez was later hired by the Palm Springs Police Department as a custodial officer inside the jail. After Palm Springs Police Department closed their jail, CSO Cortez worked for Coachella Valley Unified School District, where he worked for the past 6 years. He is embracing this opportunity and returning into the law enforcement family. CSO Cortez spends his downtime at the softball and baseball fields, watching his son and daughter practice, play games, and participate in various tournaments throughout Southern California. Come on up, Community Service Officer Adrian Cortez.
Appreciate it. First of all, I want to thank everybody for welcoming me. I wasn't expecting this. Again, this is a very exciting moment, and again, I'm very excited to be back into the family of law enforcement. So I look forward to working with everybody here.
Okay, Mayor and City Council, this is someone that obviously you're going to have a lot of conversations with. Communications Manager June Casey, who will be in charge of dispatch. Please welcome Communications Manager June Casey. June was born in Buena Park, California, and was raised in Riverside, California. In 1999, June was hired as a public safety dispatcher by the San Bernardino School Police. In 2002, she was hired as a public dispatcher by the Corona Police Department, where she dispatched for both the police and fire departments. During June's career at Corona, she has held various assignments such as tactical dispatcher, communications training officer, senior dispatcher, and was promoted to dispatch supervisor in 2015. While June was a dispatch supervisor, she was chosen to be part of the implementation team of the department's new computer-aided dispatch and reports management system, where she was the only person to be certified as a system administrator. In addition, June has attended American Military University, where she is working towards her bachelor's in criminal justice, organizational enforcement, and leadership. Throughout her career, June has volunteered her time for department events such as the annual awards banquet and the Baker to Vegas run. She enjoys camping, river trips, and spending time with her family. Communications Manager June Casey.
Thank you. I'm June Casey, and I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. It was an exciting move, and I hope to make you all proud and make a good communication center. Thank you.
Welcome all of you. Please be safe out there and go Dodgers.
You mean Raiders? Raiders.
Rams.
I'd like to say my dad actually played for the Dodgers, so I'm just trying to branch out.
Now we're going to be friends.
I was raised as a Dodger fan, so go Dodgers too.
Yes, I also wanted to give a brief update on two recent hires at City Hall. You've already seen and worked with them, but I wanted to give formal introductions. The first one is Carmazee Russell. She is our Deputy City Clerk, sitting here next to Jero. She's a resident of Desert Hot Springs, and she was raised here in the Coachella Valley. She has a professional background as a high school teacher and also as a paralegal in law enforcement. She studied paralegal studies at Chapman University and also earned a teaching credential at UC Riverside. So welcome, Carmazee. We're glad to have you. And Eric Besserell, our new building official. He currently also resides in the Coachella Valley and has about 11 years of experience working in community development in the public sector. He's a certified plans examiner with both residential and commercial projects. He's earned an associate's degree in construction management, a bachelor's degree in public administration, and he is currently working on his master's degree in public administration. So we look forward to having him on our team. Welcome, Eric. Welcome, yes, Eric, thank you. I looked at you. That's all.
Thank you very much. I don't see anybody here from MPG. Is that correct? To accept the proclamation for the Prostate Cancer Awareness Month? All right, we'll just mail them the proclamation. Unless they happen to pop in, let me know. We can do it real quick. We don't have anything else for presentations tonight, so we'll recess until 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
The Mayor and City Council welcome you to the Desert Hot Springs City Council meeting. As a courtesy to others, please silence all phones. Please complete a speaker request form, which can be found to the left of the entrance to the City Council chambers, if you would like to address the City Council on a non-agenda item. If you would like to comment on an agenda item, a speaker request form is not required. Public comments will be heard during the agenda item. Please submit the completed speaker request form to the City Clerk seated to the left of the speaker podium. All speakers will have 3 minutes to complete their comments. A countdown timer will appear on the screens located around the council chambers. All comments are to be directed to the City Council and shall be devoid of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum. Due to the Brown Act, which is California's open meeting laws, only items listed on the agenda can be addressed by the City Council. The City Council is unable to respond to matters raised on non-agenda items. However, please be aware that your comments will be noted. The speaker's name will be called to speak at the appropriate time in the order that the forms are received. Thank you for your interest and participation in the Desert Hot Springs City Council meeting.
I call to order the City of Desert Hot Springs regular meeting of the City Council, and the City Council serving as the successor agency to the former Redevelopment Agency Board for Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. This is our 6 p.m. regular session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gardner.
Present.
Councilmember Nunez.
Present.
Councilmember Pai.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Betts.
Present.
And Mayor Mattis.
Present. Invocation tonight will be given by Councilmember Pai.
Let go of my ego. Ego is a social situation with no physical reality. The ego is simply your symbol of yourself, just as the word water is noise that symbolizes a certain liquid without being it. So too, the idea of ego symbolizes the role you play, who you are, but it is not the same as your living organism. Adam White.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nunez, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
Absolutely. Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Our city attorney will now report on closed session.
Thank you. We have no reportable action items.
The approval of the agenda will be our next item. When we approve the agenda at this time, we'll approve the agenda and the consent calendar in full. Do we have any public comments on the consent calendar?
No, we do not.
With no public comments on the consent calendar, would anybody like to pull anything from the consent calendar? Hearing none, I am going to be moving item 6, which is the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, Cvag, potential operations hub for the Coachella Valley Housing First before the public hearing tonight, since it looks like it's the only visitors we have besides our staff and Russ Martin from the Water District. With that said, if there's no objections, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda, moving item 6 to the beginning of the meeting.
Second. There is a motion, a second. Once it's in the screen, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll open public comments. At this time, pursuant to the Brown Act, any person may comment on matters of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council, not listed on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the City Council shall not take action on or discuss matters raised during the public comment portion of the agenda that are not listed on the agenda. Speakers may not yield their time to others without the consent of the mayor. All comments are to be directed to the City Council and shall be devoid of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain professional, courteous decorum during public comments. Do we have any public comments on Zoom?
I have one person on Zoom, but I'm not sure if they have a public comment or on an agenda item, so I'm going to call them up.
Is it Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, are you here to comment on any items not on the agenda tonight or on an agenda item? Ms. Grant, you'll have to unmute yourself. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Would you like to comment on any items?
I wanted to speak on an agenda item, but I don't know. It's probably further down the list.
Is it the one from the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, that's item number 4. It'll be actually after one of the items on the administrative calendar and 2 other items, so we'll call you back at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else on Zoom that would like to?
That was everyone.
Okay. We do have one speaker in the audience, Sandra Munoz. You can come to the podium. If you press the button there, the light will turn red on the speaker, and then if you just state your name, your 3 minutes will begin.
My name is Sandra Munoz. I'm homeless here in Desert Hot Springs. I am actually out of Joshua Tree. I've been down here for almost 2 years now. Followed my life down here. I haven't done this in a while. It's been about 20 years since I've even been to a city council meeting. One thing I just wanted to bring up, I noticed our city, we're actually getting stuff going again. We're getting construction going. There's houses going up. More people are getting jobs. The pandemic's not being so aggressive this time. A lot of people are pulling together and helping not only homeless, but also other people in the community. A couple of months back, and this is the first time I've had a break to, honestly, I'm homeless, I do other stuff. I ran into a group of people a couple of months ago right next to 13700, the old veterinary hospital on Palm Drive. And there's a group of volunteers cleaning up trash, which is great, that's not a very dirty field. And I believe it was one of the council members, Russ or Ross, I'm not even sure.
He goes by Russ,
no,
or
I think I
Councilmember.
spoke to you, correct? Yeah. And I said, what are you guys doing? And they says, well, we're doing community cleanup. And I think at that time I had said, hey, we do it every single day because a lot of it's not the homeless people. It is because we don't have $20,000 and $30,000 in our bank accounts, nor do we have ATM cards. And I said, hey, if you can go ahead and leave a dumpster out here, we'll have a place to do that. I haven't had a chance to get back in touch with you on that, but that would be something, can we go back to that? We're, people that are living in this community, which are being ran out of Palm Springs area, Cathedral City, because they don't want them in, the mayor in Palm Springs does not want homeless on our streets. Well, I said, I'll find out our address and I'll camp on our front lawn. Folks, we're all only one paycheck away from being homeless. Just everybody needs to realize that. I actually used to work for the city of Desert Hot Springs in 1999, 2000. I got this city out of a grand jury indictment. And you've got a good group of people here. And I wasn't really totally prepared for this. I've been going and running around trying to get stuff done. You have a good group of people. I do deal with the police department a lot. We have a lot of crime out here. Unfortunately, a lot of it is drug related. It is now the blue pills. That's not Viagra anymore. Okay, it's fentanyl and it's killing people. All right, all the foil that you are seeing down on the grounds out there, that is fentanyl, straight fentanyl, guys. You pick it up with your hands, you're going to absorb the fentanyl. So I think the main thing, I have tons of other stuff. I also used to live at 15th and West. If we could get a dumpster out there, council member, or Mayor Pro Temp actually, wow. Like I had said, and you kind of shoved me off. I have a law enforcement degree. I used to work for a city. I did have a career for a long, long time. Unfortunately, this silly guy named Yahweh said you needed to get out on the streets and do what you're doing. So if there's any way that we can work on that, we will help clean up the city, because I would like to go back to Joshua Tree.
Appreciate your time.
So,
Thank you so much for coming up today. Is there, I don't have any other speaker cards. Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to speak to the city council? Final call. I see no one coming forth. We'll close public comments at this time. We'll move to city manager's report. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start off with a finance update from our finance director, Jeffrey Buckheim.
Thank you. I'm sorry if it did not bring in the slide today. But for the fiscal year 21-22, let me bring that up.
Hey, Jeffrey, I'll let you pull that up and we'll come back to you.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So I'd like to move on. We have an update from our Assistant City Manager, Danny Porras.
Thank you, Luke. I just wanted to give an update on some planning that has been going on over the past year or so, and we're actually moving, getting some speed now on it. The traffic signal at Palm and Park Lane, it's been discussed previously, it's been analyzed previously, and then previously did not meet any traffic signal warrants during that time. We've had additional development in that area. And now we are proceeding with completing a new traffic signal warrant analysis to see if it now meets warrants. We now have a library, we have the grocery outlet, and we do have full traffic as we had before. Therefore, we were waiting until we had enough traffic to hopefully meet the traffic signal warrant analysis so we can move forward with construction. We have started the design on it. We'll continue the design. And we already secured about $54,000 in construction funding. So as soon as the traffic signal design and the warrant analysis warrants it, we will continue to seek additional funding for construction and move to construction as soon as we can secure all that funding. So in the background, we are still working on that traffic signal at Palm and Park Lane. Thank you.
Do we have a time frame by chance?
The time frame for the traffic signal analysis is it's gonna be done in October, and by the end of November, we should have the analysis done. By that time, the design should be done, and we'll be able to get some better estimates. We don't have 100% construction funds secured yet, so at that time, we were to try to identify what type of funding sources we have for that traffic signal.
What's the estimated ballpark cost?
We are about $600,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Thanks, Danny. And I'd like to move on to Roberta, our Executive Program Manager.
Thank you. I just wanted to announce that we have partnered with Cvag to implement the recreation management software. We officially will launch the Cvag cloud-based software on Monday, September 20th, and this will allow residents greater visibility into offered activities, events, classes, sports, and youth league. With a convenient online registration and payment. And the catalog can be viewed on our website under the Recreation Center tab. And we also are offering 3 different computer workshops at the Recreation Center starting on October 4th. There are 3 different 4-week sessions, and the cost is $50 for residents and $25 for seniors. And you can sign up for those classes in person or online on our new software. Thank you.
Thanks, Roberta. And now back to Jeffrey, who is probably have rebooted your electronic device.
Yes, thank you. So for fiscal year 21-22, to year to date, the city has received over $1.6 million in revenue. Last year at this time, we've also had about $1.6 million in revenue, and in the previous year, 1920, we had $1.3 million in revenue. For expenditures, we have slightly over $1 million. Last year at this time, we were at the city was at 4.6 million, and 2 years ago it was at 4.4 million. These are for the revenues and expenditures for the general fund and the public safety fund.
Thank you. And then finally, we have an update from our Deputy City Manager, Doria Wilms.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I just want to take a moment to highlight a recent Desert Sun article. that was written, which analyzed crime statistics for the city of Desert Hot Springs from 2010 to 2021. The most notable takeaway from that article is this, and I will quote directly from the headline: as population increases by 25% over 10 years, certain crimes have dropped by 50%. According to the 2020 census, Desert Hot Springs is the fastest growing city in the Coachella Valley. However, even as the population increases, most crimes are on the decline. Some of those crimes, for example, like burglaries and aggravated assaults, are half of what they were a decade ago. These sharp declines are a testament to the commitment of our City Council to support our police department and the hard work of Chief Henson, Deputy Chief Shaw, our officers and detectives who work tirelessly to drive down crime in our community. We also want to take a minute to thank our residents for their active community engagement. We do better as a community when we all work together. You can find the full Desert Sun analysis on our website at cityofdhs.org. Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. That was a great article. We'll move to council member comments. I'm just going to start down at this end, move my way to this end. Mr. Gardner?
He's up and running now. I didn't think you were going to go this way. So I just have a couple of quick little things, Mr. Mayor, today. We had a Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy meeting last week. And finally, at long last, it looks like our Long Canyon Trail grand opening should be at the end of October. I don't have an exact date yet, but we'll get to that. And the proposed Blind Canyon Trail is now on the list of 5 that are moving forward for environmental and property impacts assessments for this fall, hopefully with funding secured and development for next year. So that'll be great. Also had a meeting of the Coachella Valley Mosquito and Vector Control Board, otherwise known as the Bug Board. Some good news from that. We had no infected mosquitoes found in Desert Hot Springs this year at all. Only one in the valley, and it was in La Quinta. And I'll let you draw your own conclusion to that. And no other Coachella Valley cities had any infected mosquitoes. We did have some activity with mosquitoes infected with West Nile and St. Louis encephalitis along the north shore of the Salton Sea, up slightly from last year, but lower than the rolling 5-year average. So we've been able to keep our mosquitoes under control, and we've done really well out here in Desert Hot Springs. We've had a couple of call-outs for some potential activity. Councilmember Betts had me bring some people out to for some something near your property downtown, and they took care of it, and had some stuff in Rancho del Oro too that we took care of. But for the most part, we've been really mosquito free this year, thanks to everybody making sure they don't have any standing water out there. That's all I've got.
Mr. Betts?
And Gary, I want to say I was really happy to see you out there in a yellow suit taking care of all that for us. So no, we had a problem with mosquitoes down by the salon, and it's really annoying, and called up the Mosquito and Vector Control District, and spot on service. I happened to pull up when the guy was there, and just bright young man doing his job and hunting down the mosquitoes. I'm thinking of the movie Caddyshack, where they're going after the little, whatever it was, squirrel or rodent. Anyhow, good job. So pass that along if you would, please. I'm going to forego any discussion about the meetings I've been to. I'll report on those at the next meeting. I wanted to take a little more time to focus in on 2 things. One, briefly on Sunline, the Sunline Transit Agency. The agency is working really hard to get the bus routes up to speed. Before they were cut back over COVID, there was a modified Sunday schedule, and now working to get drivers, and like everybody else, it's hard to find employees. You got to get a whole system that was down and bring it back up. I just want to let the public know, if you have any questions or if there's any service interruptions, if a bus didn't show up, you can ring my phone, no problem. Get my number off the city website. And I have quite a few people that call me and say, hey, I missed the bus. And then or buses were leaving early was a big one. And I get down there, call down to Sunline and say, hey, it's not acceptable for a bus to leave early. That one's totally within our control. And so we got those numbers way down. But just briefly, if there's anything that you got any complaints or anything, give me a call. I pick up the phone right away, and maybe that's easier than going through the other channels. and we'll get it addressed. The other thing I want to spend a little bit of time on was I sit on the League of California Cities Revenue and Taxation Policy Committee, and that's basically cities from all over California that look and weigh in on policy, taxation policy, and revenue policy of the state of California. And it's just a policy advisory committee. And usually there's not a lot that relates to Desert Hot Springs, but now there may be, so I'm going to get a little bit of detail on that. And it'll actually be a vote that we have to make up in Sacramento. It's just a policy advisory vote, but everybody knows we've got these big giant warehouses, and I think it's about 5 cities that are really concerned that what happens is with the taxation, the sales tax, if you've got one of those big giant distribution centers in your city, well, you basically get all the sales tax for everything that's going out to everywhere. So if a package is delivered to Desert Hot Springs, we don't get the sales tax on that. The city where that distribution center is located gets it. So there's a whole bunch of cities who are, one, noticing that online sales are increasing, their retail sales are decreasing, and they're saying, hey, we need to get a piece of this action. We're starting to lose some sales tax. Now, in Desert Hot Springs, I've always thought that we should be getting a portion of the sales tax for our residents that go down to these other cities. So anyhow, the policy discussion was there with the cities who obviously have these big distribution centers in their city. They want to keep everything the way it is. They're happy getting all the tax, and they're saying, woe is me if you take this away. And all the other cities are saying, well, you know, you've got jobs that are created by these distribution centers. We know you have impacts of traffic, but you should have mitigated that when you planned for these. And then you also got property tax increase, and now you're getting the sales tax. So I don't know exactly where it's going to go. To me, the ideal situation is where it's delivered is where the sales tax should be paid. That's the city should be paid. I don't think I'll prevail on that one. But it was, when it came to a vote, it was 86% in favor of modifying it so that at least the cities where the parcels are being delivered start to get some sales tax. So it's a pretty significant issue. Where it would come into us is if we had a big box distribution center that wanted to go into our available land and we were counting on sales tax as part of the equation. Wow, look at all the sales tax we're going to get. Well, if that goes away, that may be one of the things that, you know, makes it less desirable. You know, as you're doing the pros and the cons of those things. And there are some cities that are just outright banning those big boxes. So it's an issue that came up. I don't think the vote at the league is, you know, but I think Sacramento at the annual conference is going to, you know, sway anything. But the idea is to start telling the legislature this is what we want to see happen. The alternative view for those people at the big boxes, well, why don't we just delay this? Why don't we just not do anything on this? Let's go back and study it some more. So, which to me meant they just wanted to delay it and not upset a good deal for them. So that's it. I don't have anything else. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Nunez?
Sure, thank you. I just want to give a couple of updates. Last week, I attended the Cvag Public Safety Committee, and we brought up there's a presentation of the Great Shakeout that's coming up in October 21st, which is, everybody remembers those drills that happen at 10:21 in the morning, and everybody has to prepare for that. So they just give us an update with that, and then to let us know that there are changes to, one, how technology has changed. We can now, you know, we have at least 10-second head start when it comes to earthquakes and detecting them. Obviously not today. So you said there was one in Palm Springs. And there's also new protocols and how to protect ourselves. So I'm hoping that we can at least put it on the website, the connection to, shakeout.org. And that way the residents can be kept informed and updated if possible. Also last week I attended the CVEP Coachella Economic Partnership meeting. And they did talk about something very interesting and something I've been trying to get for a long time and ask for a long time is a regional apprenticeship program for UCR. This concentrates on 9 manufacturing and IT. And so it's basically getting regional companies to open up apprenticeships for young adults and the youth. And hopefully they start addressing the lack of positions that their people are losing, so the retention is not as high. So I'm hoping that maybe some of the business here in Desert Hot Springs, especially in the cannabis industry, and also maybe the windmills can look at this and be a part of this program. I think it's a great opportunity that we can showcase for the city at least. Another one, I sit on the board for the youth AYSO soccer league. I was asked by the director to talk to Mr. Chief Henson here to see if we're able to help out with volunteering refs and coaching. I told him I'll talk to you. That I couldn't make any commitments though. So if you guys are more than willing, we'll have you. It'll be an honor to have you guys down there. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the parks master plan. I think the mayor and I had talked about this during one of the meetings, that it'd be a good idea to update it. So I'm hoping that we get a chance to, because I know it's been, what, 6 years, 7 years, Mayor? So we can maybe update, take a look at the master parks plan and see what we can do with that. I know there's a lot more residents. I'm at the football field at night, and there's a massive amount of people at the parks now, and I'd love to see that. And I think we need to take care of them, though, if they're there. And lastly, I just wanted to see if I can get an update on the code enforcement. A few months ago, we heard some issues with code enforcement on some properties, and also them potentially being fined. I just want to see if maybe we can get an update at the next meeting, where they're at, if they're still in compliance or they're out in compliance. And that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pye?
Okay, I'm well. I got a bunch of cards. Mostly, I got a lot of prayer. And my medical emergency was not about COVID. And now I'll move on. The SPA committee met on September 14th. You had asked about that. Originally, I had stated that the SPA committee would meet in September. No, I said that they would meet, and that we would meet hopefully in September to bring information to the council. We were on vacation in August, and so we met August 14th, and we plan to meet to bring the information to the council in October. And our goal is to make it fair. We are operating within the budget that we just approved, and we're working on the 10-year budget. I'm not giving away money, but I am giving it strategically, and we are doing it for the spa hotels. And I'm thinking Pasco, Councilman Gardner and I are thinking Pasco. Does that satisfy you, Mr. Betts? You asked the question.
I don't remember the question, though.
Okay. I think I answered the question.
Okay, thanks.
I had one.
Sure.
Is there a time frame that we anticipate maybe a decision being made or not?
I said that the information will be presented to the council in October. And from there, the council will decide. Is that good? Okay. September 15th, I met with the Cvag Homeless Committee, and the most important thing for us is item 6, which is later on the agenda. On September 20th, I attended the Mission Springs Water District meeting, and the most interesting thing to us is the acceptance of the North Indian Canyon sewer project. Based on last meeting and information that was put into the Desert Sun, Mr. Mayor, I want to say a little something. We as a council need to step up to the plate. Desert Sun wrote an article on Desert Hot Springs, and it said Desert Hot Springs is the fastest growing city in the Coachella Valley. But even as the population has increased, most crimes have been on the decline. In addition, housing prices have improved. Business is improving. But we are paying attention to each other with slight stabs, etc. We need to step up and recognize these achievements that we have brought to the community and do our best to be public servants and set policy. If you don't like a person on the council, respect their title. They have constituents. Set policy based on the population of our city, not slights on the council. No constituency in this city should be putting popcorn in a microwave before a council meeting. Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Thank you very much. I will start out with, I attended a few meetings. This last couple of weeks haven't been too busy, so my report won't be too long. I was invited as the mayor of Desert Hot Springs to participate in the All Mayors and Tribal Leaders Forum put on by the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce. I was only able to give each mayor and tribal leaders able to give a 5-minute speech, and they hold us to 5 minutes. They actually have a person there with a card. And we're only able to give 5 minutes. There's not a lot to say, and I've tried over the last 6 years to try to fit what Desert Hot Springs is all about in 5 minutes, and I've failed every time. So this year, I took the advice from Linda Evans a couple years ago, and she got up there and basically said, my state of the city is a state, and she said it multiple times. So I did the same thing. That's what we'll be really focusing on, is the state of the city of Desert Hot Springs. But it's always a pleasure to be able to meet with your colleagues, and after being with COVID for the last year and a half, it was just really nice to get back out. And I know some of the Water District folks were there. Mr. Martin is in the audience right now. He was there. So it was good to see everybody and hear what we could. I unfortunately had to leave for a work meeting, so I wasn't able to stay for the forum, but I heard that went well also. So again, thank you to the Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce for hosting that. I did attend with Councilmember Pai our police forum at the Word of Life Church. The police put on a forum once a year, and they're looking to hopefully do it more than once a year going forward. Basically just to talk with the community on policing and what they're doing in the neighborhood. Police Chief Henson, our deputy chief, and our commander from the police department were all there to answer questions, and there was a handful of people that showed up, about 10, I believe, and they were able to listen to an update and ask questions about our police department. So kudos to you guys, really well done. Attended the Riverside County Transportation Commission. Nothing really pertained directly to Desert Hot Springs. Right now they're refinancing a bunch of bonds, and we did a recently we bonded out for $15 million, but the bonds at RCTC are billions, and so to refinance them, the report itself is about 25 minutes long. So you can imagine just going through that, but nothing directly pertaining to Desert Hot Springs. I was invited, as most of the mayors are in the Coachella Valley, to participate in Hunger Action Month with Fine Food Bank. I was able to do 15 minutes of interview and about half a second on TV. But our staff, I appreciated all you, all wore orange that day. We had probably about 15 of you that came up and stood behind me, and then were able to be on TV and be famous for your 15 minutes. So, but I really do appreciate you participating in that. And I believe in January, is it? January, you're actually going to go down to the food bank and help pack boxes and do your part. So again, our staff is not recognized enough for what they do in our community and beyond. So thank you for what you're doing. Fine Food Bank, if you don't know, Fine Food Bank, it's the food bank here in the Coachella Valley that feeds all our pantries, and we have multiple pantries here in Desert Hot Springs, from Food Now to St. Elizabeth's to our senior center, and then Fine actually comes and spends time on our school district's properties handing out food. So it's just, we got to continue to support them. I'm decided that I'm overweight. That's a shock to you, right, Russ? With that, this leads into my over 40 because I'm now 50, but I can't play anyone in basketball under 30, I think, or under 40. So Nick and I are going to team up, and we're going to play some basketball every Wednesday night starting October 6th at the Health and Wellness Center in the gymnasium. Russ, you can come. You're over 40, I heard. And so if you just want some pickup basketball, nothing formal, just, maybe some one-on-one, just Nick and I show up, or maybe some 2-on-2, 3-on-3, they'll be able to do that. We picked it as 40 and over so the kids don't show up and just take us on. We can practice for a while and then we'll bring them back in. But I also hear that our youth basketball program is doing wonderful. So this is just, again, an opportunity for our community opening a gymnasium that we've been talking about for the last, 6-7 years. We finally got it there. So come out October 6th. After that, every Wednesday night from 6 to 8, and we can do some pickup basketball and get exercising. At the last meeting, we talked a lot about rules, Rosenberg's rules and orders, and I kind of really read through that, the city attorney, and I kind of talked about it a little bit. One of the things that we've had trouble following up here is how do we, work with each other when it comes to our questioning. When we left the Carl May Center, we used to have a speaker button, bam. Put your name in there and you get to speak and you're next up in the queue. Now we don't. So Rosenberg's Rules of Order basically says that you must be recognized by the chair. I know this isn't a popular thing to a lot of people, but I am the chair. So I'm going to ask that we run it under Rosenberg's, which was a big discussion by the city council in the last meeting. So if you need to speak, please be recognized by me, and that includes our staff and our city council. All you got to do is get my attention. Once you're recognized by me, it's your floor, and you should not be interrupted by anybody. I can't guarantee that, but we should not. So, and lastly, State of the City. As we talked about at the beginning, State of the City is October 21st, October 21st, October 21st. So if you have time on October 21st, the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce will be hosting the State of the City this year. We moved it from May to October because of COVID. It'll be at the Health and Wellness Center here in Desert Hot Springs, just like it was 2 years ago. And it will be, I think it's going to be like 11:30 to 1. The flyer should be coming out soon. I know staff is finalizing that with the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce. And tables will be available. And we'll hopefully give a good presentation on where Desert Hot Springs is going. The council will all have seats there. Hopefully they'll all be able to show up, and everybody will be recognized for what we're doing to move Desert Hot Springs forward. So really looking forward to that. That's all I have tonight. What time is that? I believe it's going to start at 11:30. I'm not sure how they're structuring it yet. I think they're still working out the contract. Are they going to do an expo before that?
Yeah, at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. they'll start.
And then the lunch will start at 11:30.
Great. So expo at 10, 11:30 lunch, and I will try to get you out of there by 1. I won't go on like I did the first State of the City 5 years ago, and 3 hours later we were out of there. No, I promise not to. All right, we're going to go back to our administrative. We're going to jump up to the administrative calendar, item number 6, which is the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, Cvag, potential operations hub for the Coachella Valley Housing First. I asked for this item to be put on the agenda as I was updated by our representative, Jan Pai, who sits on the Homelessness Committee for the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. She brought this forward that there's a decision that's been made for recommendation to the Executive Committee. I am the representative for the Executive Committee at the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. Our meeting is next week, right? Next Monday. And so whenever there's an item on the agenda that might affect Desert Hot Springs or might be controversial in some way, I don't think it is, but you never know. I like to get direction from the council before I go and make a vote on behalf of Desert Hot Springs, as I'm representing the whole city, not my own personal opinion. So with that said, is there anything you'd like to add to it, Ms. Pai, before I have the presentation?
I think you should do the presentation. I just have a summary and you may not want it now.
With that said, I'm going to invite up our staff from Cvag and our county supervisors. You have 2 titles, don't you, Greg? You have, yeah. I always wonder who you work for, but you work for everybody, so I just say. I'll invite up Mr. Rodriguez. He's going to give kind of a report on where this is going with the county and the Coachella Valley Association of Governments and what we'll be making a decision on in the future.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council and staff. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. Erica did a wonderful staff report that you had in your packet that was basically the staff report for the Cvag Homeless Committee. I just wanted to give a couple highlights on the CV200 program, specifically specifically to Desert Hot Springs. But overall in the valley, just in the first 2 quarters, as you know, we've set kind of a goal of 200 individuals that are our high-frequency users. So high-frequency users of law enforcement and our hospital systems and medical systems. Out of that 200 in the first 2 quarters, we've already permanently housed 50 of those individuals. So just overall in the valley, a really, really good progress report once we brought those operations in-house to the Cvag operation. Additionally, in addition to the permanent supportive housing, we've helped a numerous amount of individuals with what we call rapid resolution. So that's getting them a bus ticket home. It's basically paying for a deposit, fixing a car that keeps them one paycheck away from homelessness, as the woman said earlier. Specifically to Desert Hot Springs, though, over the first 2 quarters, there's been about 25 people engaged, specifically through the Cvag Housing First program. 15 of those have been helped with various resources, whether that's been the rapid resolution. 5 of those have actually been permanently housed. I know 5 doesn't sound like a lot of number, but keep in mind, these are our really intense clients, the chronically homeless that take numerous engagements to actually engage. So that is pretty good news for Desert Hot Springs. The CV Housing First team does outreach weekly in Desert Hot Springs as well as throughout the Coachella Valley, and then of course we'll respond to any requests for outreach or services through your police department. And then I know there's been questions come up before about how many units, crisis stabilization units are in Desert Hot Springs. Currently we have 2 of those. They're both 2-bedroom units and no issues as far as neighbors go, vandalism or any of that. So very, very successful here. I just briefly want to go over basically what the operations hub is going to be. I know that a couple years ago there was potential for a respite care facility, homeless facility at the firehouse at Dillon and Indian there, and I know that there was some current concerns from members of not only the council but the community on, basically a shelter operation there. Even though technically it was a respite care facility for those being discharged from hospitals, there was the concerns about sheltering actually homeless individuals there. That, of course, fell through due to some revenue issues with the city of Palm Springs. What we're proposing now to the executive committee at Cvag is what we're calling an operations hub. This is by no means a shelter. It's not a day drop-in facility. It really is for the primary reason of operations for the CV housing staff. There is the potential, I will be honest, that a portion of the facility could be used for a crisis stabilization unit. If we would get to that effort, we would definitely inform the city. But again, we just really want to emphasize that it is not a shelter operation. It's not a drop-in facility. We'll be highly monitored by Cvag staff. There may be an occasion where a client is coming to the facility for assistance with getting documents that they need or placement into permanent housing. I do also, too, want to emphasize that I was able to work out with the county and Cvag $1 a year lease on that property. What the beauty of that is, though, is that's saving Cvag and the CV Housing First operation about $3,000 to $4,000 a month in operational costs. And what we really like about that is that's $3,000 to $4,000 a month that can actually go to program services and actually helping homelessness instead of actually the actual overhead and operational costs. So with that brief report, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Erica Felci from Cvag is here as well if you have any further questions.
Thank you both for coming out. I don't know if we do, but if we get there, please feel free to just come on up and answer. Look down here, look down here. Do I see anybody waving? You have questions? Please.
I've got comments and questions.
Please, yeah, all yours.
Thank you. Okay, so this location is about 1.3 miles further than Roy's was located. And the thrust of my comments is that Roy's didn't work in large part because it was too remote. The cost of transportation was too much. There was no bus line nearby. And as you're looking for a facility that could potentially turn into a crisis stabilization facility, which I think is a logical step, my question is, why would knowing that Roy's was so remote, and that's one of the key reasons that it's failed. I got a bunch or so on. Key reasons that it failed. Why would we go to a location that's even more remote? And so I would question the location. And then you had mentioned that several other locations were looked at. And every time I look at this issue, I'm thinking to myself, okay, who are we serving? We're serving people who They don't largely have cars. I don't think any of them have cars, at least not ones that are operating. They might be sleeping in them, but they don't have a car they can use for transportation. So they're going to have to rely on bus service. They're going to have to go a long ways. Even our residents who are gainfully employed and utilize Sunline Transit to get to work often complain that, it's an hour-long or more bus ride to get where we're going. As somebody who's got some challenges of getting back on their feet, I don't think putting them on a bus for 2 hours a day or 4 hours a day is the most productive use of their time. So I'm questioning how the location was selected. And I can understand the $1 a day rent is attractive, but if you've got other operational costs that broke Roy's, and even if you don't have clients there immediately, you have staff coming in from wherever they're coming in, and I presume they don't live in Desert Hot Springs or near this facility, so they're going to be driving much further away. I would think that something more centrally located, like in Palm Springs, Cathedral City, Thousand Palms, would one be closer to services, would be a much more efficient place to locate a facility like this. We deal with it every day when we live here in Desert Hot Springs. So the number one complaint is when we got to get something, we got to drive there. It's part of being a bedroom community. We're doing our best to rectify that. But the reality for us is, I'm going to go somewhere. I'm going to make a drive down valley to go get it, either Palm Desert or Palm Springs. And so you're facing the same transportation challenges there. The only thing I have is, I see in your fiscal analysis, it says because the building's been vacant, there's immediate upkeep needs to make the space work, and exact cost of these fixes is being determined as Cvag identifies the extent of the work. This would be putting on my Cvag hat if I was on the executive committee, and it seems like you're asking is you're going to be asking the executive committee to, well, please approve this. We don't know what it's going to cost yet. We don't have any kind of estimate for you. Under this fiscal analysis, we're telling you that we don't know what it's going to cost, but go ahead and approve it, and we'll let you know what those costs are later. And our staff knows I don't like that when I'm asked to vote on something. If it's going to be a minor expense, fine, but this isn't going to be a minor expense. You're talking about getting the building ready. If you're talking a couple thousand, fine, but there should be something in this fiscal analysis to the executive committee, I would think, that would tell them, hi, we're looking at 10,000, 100,000. Somebody should be able to come up with some kind of rough estimate on that. But my concern here would be that you haven't cited this in a good location for it to be as efficient as it needs to be, to not have a foot in the hole already of trying to help people. You just add to the administrative costs, and that you really need to knock down what the what the costs are going to be on the make ready for the building. And I would think before Monday you should have that. I'm not telling you what to do, but if I was on the committee, that'd be easier my comment right now. So that's what I have. If you want to address that, I'd be happy to hear your reply.
We're more than happy to.
And by the way, very happy to have you and Erica here.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate it. First of all, it's $1 a year, not $1 a day, so it's even a better deal than that. But let me again emphasize that this is more for staff. This is for the operations for the program. So so I'll explain a little bit more about what a crisis stabilization unit is. So we basically rent apartments or homes as individual crisis stabilization units. Those are units that we place individuals in for 30, 60, 90 days as we work to get them document ready, as we work to get them either in a shelter setting or, more importantly, into permanent housing. So even if there were, say, 2 units within that, it's not a shelter system like Roy's whatsoever. It would basically be an apartment for an individual. So again, there's not the issue of the location as far as like what Roy's was, because it's not operating as a shelter at all. Again, it's not a drop-in day facility at all like Roy's was, even though it wasn't a drop-in day facility, they just housed people at night. As well, so that also, to my kind of addresses the bus issue as well. And of course, you're supposed to be fixing all these Sunline issues, Russ. So, and as far as staff goes, as their commute, what the unique operational model for the CV 200 and CV Housing First program is we don't keep our staff in an office 8 hours, 10 hours a day. They're actually out in the field, because that's that's where our clients are, especially that 200. They're not apt to come to an office location. We have to go to them. So in addition to, staff is already traveling throughout the valley 5 days a week. Additionally, we're actually implementing a mobile access van. It's actually more of a bus than a van. They'll actually be more part of the operational aspect of that. What is coming before the Cvag Executive Committee on Monday night is actually just authorization for the Executive Director, Tom Clerk, to actually negotiate a lease. So why I bring that up is because that gets into your point about what costs we may run into. Erica and her team and Cvag have already been working with the county to do inspections of the site. We know that the county will fix any major structural issues that we haven't really noticed any, but they're also replacing some of the windows. So we're not anticipating a high cost of remodel. We're basically talking paint and cleaning. So there's really not going to be a huge cost issue. If there were, that is part of the negotiations that Mr. Clerk will do. In addition to is that I'm making sure that if there is major issues with the building, that the county will try and absorb some of that, so that Cvag's not faced with that.
Oh, that's the reason you have multiple titles.
Just follow-up comment, if I might,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
please.
Okay, thanks. Just the final comment I have is that, we're all out on this, we're all out about our town, and we see somebody needs help. And we had somebody that was in this room today, and I want to reach out to her and say hi. When I had an encounter with her when we were doing the cleanup, I said, "Do you need housing?" First thing I asked him, and we need to make sure that we can have that for them. And it's been a point of frustration here a couple of times that had people that need help, and we aren't able to make the calls, and then nobody says, well, maybe we'll be out there Thursday or Friday. They go, well, I'm not going to be able to find this person on Thursday or Friday. They need something now, and we need to try and get past that point. So I know you're working towards that, and maybe this is a piece of that, but my question would be on, I just don't think it's the most efficient location. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Nunez, anything?
Can
Yes,
I
thank you, Mr.
add
Mayor.
something to his question?
Please.
I'm asking
If it's
him.
okay, I
Yeah,
call on him, so it's his call.
Part of what we got at the Cvag meeting was partial. And the reason why I said that is because afterwards, Tom didn't started negotiating beforehand, and part of what he did was infrastructure, which was not on the table. Part of what he said was that he's cheap, and he is cheap when it comes to negotiating, and that's how he walked into infrastructure. And it's like Craig said, it's not going to be that much. And I'll say again, because Tom is cheap.
Are you recording me?
So that's not so much. And plus, there only be 2 occupants. The main resource is people getting out and going to homeless. There already is a truck which is being taken from Boxing Club. So it's not like we have to get a truck. And from my understanding, what you like is that it's not in the city, which is a good thing. The only thing that's going out in the city is the cars that are going to the people and finding out what they need. I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Nunez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had, just 2 comments, not necessarily concerns, but just comments. What kind of impact this is going to have in that area? And 2, were the residents that lived in the mobile home park right next door notified? Were they asked to participate in any decision makings, or even asked like, hey, what do you think about this? This is what's going in. Can we get some feedback? And even, I guess, the surrounding, right across the street also, there's a, small community. So I would like to see, in my end, I've always been community driven. So getting the community involved and maybe helping them shape what that services look like.
Yeah, great questions, Councilmember. And again, I want to get back to the point that this is not a shelter operation. And I agree with you, and a big part of my job is community engagement, especially if you're talking about affordable housing developments, homeless services. So we didn't engage the community because it really is just an office setting. And so like any regular business that would open an office in a location, you wouldn't necessarily communicate with the community on that.
Right, but it's the big picture, what they plan to, what it can potentially be in the future. That's where we need to like let the residents know, hey, this is, that.
So, and I'm more than happy to take that back to Cvag staff and talk about that. We don't do community engagement when we rent other apartments for our crisis stabilization units, because it's just like a regular landlord-tenant transaction. Knock on for Mike or Marble, we haven't had any neighborhood issues with that. Again, I'm happy to take that back to staff. If we decide to do some stabilization units there, we could engage the community. As far as an impact goes, there'll be little to no impact, in my opinion. Again, this is operations out of there. So, whether we were operating out of the boxing club in Palm Springs, there was no impact at all to the surrounding community. Those operations right now are running out of a conference room at the Cvag headquarters in Palm Desert, and there's no impact. So there will be no direct impact to the city at all. What's nice is you're actually going to have occupants in that building that possibly could prevent actually negative impacts from an empty and vacant building. So.
Was that it? Oh, okay. Mr. Gardner, did you prompt any questions before I finish up?
No questions. I think this is a worthwhile use of an abandoned piece of property. You did make the valid point that it's going to keep transients and people from going into an abandoned building, just a drop-in thing for the office staff and a place to store the van, and if needed, be down the road an apartment if we have to. So I think it's a worthwhile move on Cvag's part, and if you're looking for direction, Mr. Mayor, I think that it's worth supporting at Cvag level.
Is that a motion?
I move that we vote to support that we direct the mayor to support the Cvag proposal.
Is there a second? Work? Yes. Is there a second? There's motion second. I'll finish up with a little bit of discussion before you go. The garage area, is that going to be utilized also?
It's actually perfect for the mobile access van.
Okay. That's why I figured you're going to park inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I being a volunteer fireman for years, that was one of the stations that we would cover quite a bit and train at quite a bit. So it has a lot of, you can utilize a lot in there. It has multiple rooms, offices, so yeah, I think it'd be a good opportunity for you. So I just wanted to ask that question. I do think it's time, we've talked about this for a long time, and I don't know how you feel, Mr. Betts, about carrying those waters to try to get some sort of bus stop in Indian Canyon area, along Dillon to Indian Canyon and down Indian Canyon into Palm Springs. I mean, there's multiple businesses down there. There's a need for, because of residential, and then we've got some large businesses that are being developed down there that are going to need to have ridership that impacts their employment. So I think it is time that Sunline really takes a hard look at that route in the future. That's my suggestion. What's that?
Before we vote, I was
Yeah, absolutely. My last comment is I was very fortunate to take my middle daughter down to Hollywood this weekend to see a musical that she's been wanting to see for a long time. And I just haven't been there for a long time. And my wife had bought us parking next to the Capitol Record building, if anybody knows Hollywood. We were going to Pantages Theater, and the map took us off at a side street past Hollywood Boulevard, 2 streets up. My 16-year-old daughter got to see something that I would never want anybody to see in their lifetime. As much as the LA City Council is trying to do to clean up around the freeways, it's not even anywhere close yet. But I know they're working towards that. But it was an eye-opener to see people living the way they were living under these freeways. And then into the neighborhoods of Hollywood. We wanted to go find some food, and she mapped out a restaurant that she thought might be open at 10:30 in the morning. And we ended up down a side street, and it was pretty nerve-wracking to see that. We are doing something in the Coachella Valley that is above and beyond what they have not done in Los Angeles for a long time that should have been done a long time ago. If we don't continue down this path on finding solutions to homelessness, I can almost say 100% that we will never cure the homeless problem, but I can say we're doing 10 times, 100 times more than what cities regret, I think, today not doing years ago. It's not a crime to be homeless, but it is a crime for cities not to be taken a blind eye as I believe larger cities did for a long, long time on the issues and services and needs and public cleanliness. I mean, just that itself. So I am very much in support of this. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think we need to continue down this path, and what we continue to morph into what we started many years ago with the homeless needs of the Coachella Valley. I think this is just another piece of the puzzle that's going to work really well. So I'm definitely going to be in support of it.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add on to that, just to let council know and staff and public, is that, it's a multi-pronged approach to homelessness. The CV 200, CV Housing First program is just one spoke in the wheel, basically. The work of the county, the advancement of the new department within the county, the expansion of behavioral health outreach workers at the county, the work of both of our major shelters, Martha's Vineyard,
A little different.
Linda would like that, though. Martha's Village and CVRM, but additionally too is I'm working very intensively right now with the city of Palm Springs on a larger campus type facility within the city of Palm Springs that will have an element of shelter capacity, as well as crisis stabilization units, permanent supportive housing, full wraparound services with behavioral health, workforce training, child care, child development as well. So I just kind of wanted to extend on your remarks that I personally believe that Coachella Valley is further ahead than many, many jurisdictions in the state of California or the country. What's beautiful about this too is that this is the first year through Tom Clerk's leadership and the work that Erica and her staff has done. I'll take a little bit of credit, I guess, but that all 9 cities within the valley are supporting the CV Housing First program, and this is the first year that's done. So it is a regional approach. We get accolades for the county and the state on the regionalism that we're taking approaches to. Much of the work that we're doing out here is being modeled through the strategic action plan that's being developed and will be unveiled in November for the whole county-wide effort on that.
Absolutely wonderful and great work you guys are doing. Mr. Spitz, you had a final comment?
I just want to make sure my record was clear. My position was attributed to me that wasn't exactly what I'm holding, is that, and my concern is not that it's in the city proper or not in our city proper of Desert Hot Springs. My concern is just it's a limited location. So other than that, I want to say I very much appreciate the mayor bringing this back to the council for our input, and my hope would be that as you go to that meeting, that you would ask them, what's this going to cost? Everybody's got the same goal. My view is we can't help anybody if we're being less efficient than we need to be, and every dollar is precious because it's one that's cost too much for gas or transportation is taken away from money we need to take care of people. So that would be it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Well, I think the question has been written down, so we'll get an answer to that. So I do have a motion. Ms. Pye, can you press second on your screen? I think you seconded. It's registered. Please vote.
Motion passes with Mayor Pro Tem Betts against.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out and spending the evening with us. Well, a little bit of time. We'll see you Monday. Move back to public hearings, item number 2, which is the annexation number 42 to the City of Desert Hot Springs Community Facilities District number 2010-1 services for APN 665030064 located south of 14th Avenue, east of Cabot Road within the Desert Hot Springs Special Public Safety Tax Area. Mr. Buckheim?
Yes, thank you. So this item is actually a continuation from the meeting on July 6th. The hearing is to annex a 3.14 acre parcel into the 2010-1 Community Facilities District. The annexation will allow for the levy of a special assessment to pay for expenses such as maintenance, lighting, drainage, basin service costs. We have Charmaine and Nadia with Web Municipal Finance here, also available online for questions.
Thank you very much. I will entertain questions of staff from the city council. Is there any questions directly to the city? Yes, Mr. Betts.
Thank you. So, question of staff. So, I presume the property owner is going to vote to go into this community, what's he call it, community facilities district? And you briefly said that this will take care of maintaining a catch basin. What exactly is, somebody's paying some money every year to be into this community facilities district, and they're getting some service out. What services are they supposed to get? Landscaping? What are we getting out of this one?
So it would be help if they get services to provide for, landscaping maintenance, any repairs, not necessarily a drainage basin, but if there's one there, it would help with the maintenance of that. Any repairs of city facilities that happen to be on the property.
Okay, so part of the approval plans on this are going to be, when it goes to Planning Commission, if it hasn't already, is going to be, they have to put in some landscaping, perimeter landscaping, and some other improvements, maybe a catch basin, right?
And lighting and items like that.
Okay, and so after they put in all that stuff, then they have two choices. They can either say, okay, I'm going to maintain this landscaping myself because I'd rather just do it myself, or I'm going to leave that landscaping up to the city to perform, correct?
Yes, you can have it, they take care of it themselves, and the city will still do an assessment and build up a fund balance, then to be able to take it over if for some reason the property owner isn't able to do, or decides not to anymore.
Well, they have the option to go either way, right? I mean, they're paying into a community facilities district, which is supposed to provide this service, and I think there's a whole bunch of them out there that don't know that. And and it's like, I'm wondering if maybe sometimes our code department goes out there and issues a citation to one of these shopping centers or whatever else that's in a community facilities district, and they might do well just to issue the citation to themselves because we vote to create this, we're ultimately responsible. So are we ticketing ourselves? That's, a little rhetorical question there, but I'm just trying to get an understanding to make sure what it is we're voting for on this one. And then my last question is, it says annexation number 42 into an existing community facilities district or a new one? What are we doing here?
We're annexing into the existing community facilities district.
Is there a map that shows the current facilities district? Is there
there is a,
I see the one map that shows where the parcel is. I'm just showing, so this is one parcel that's in a larger community facilities district? Or is this a whole, what's it annexing into?
It's annexing into a larger community facilities district, which basically encompasses part of the city.
The whole city?
The whole city, I don't know about that, but I can check and find out for you.
Okay. I've asked my technical questions that I have. That's all I have. Thanks.
Any more questions for staff before I open the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I can just answer one quick question that Mr. Betts had. Mayor Pro Tem Betts had. The code compliance actually does notify Public Works Department whenever there is outstanding cases every year before they go into any assessments. If there is any fund balances that we do go into those facilities that are not well maintained or need some kind of maintenance, and we've had those cases where some commercial properties that did have CFDs that were established in the last 3 years, and city staff actually did move in there and clean them up. So we do work one-on-one with Code and Public Works.
All right, we'll open the public hearing at this time and take public testimony. Do I have any public hearing on Zoom?
No, we do not.
Do I have anybody in the audience who would like to make public testimony? I see nobody coming forth. We'll close the public hearing at this time. Any more questions from the city council to staff? I see none. We'll actually entertain a motion to adopt a resolution calling for the election to submit to the qualified electors the question of levying a special tax within the area proposed to be annexed to the Community Facilities District number 2010-1 Services Annexation number 42.
So moved. Well, I was going to so move, but also second.
There's a motion and a second as soon as they come up on the screen. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
At this time, we'll hold the election and canvass the election.
The property owner has voted in favor of the annexation.
We'll now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution declaring the election results for the annexation to the Community Facilities District 2010-1 Services, annexation number 42.
So moved.
Second.
We're just waiting on the computer to come up. Just give us a second here.
Is it showing?
Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Item 3 is creating a special tax area 49, DHS Investment Holdings LLC for the APN 665-030-064, located south of 14th Avenue and east of Cabot Road within the Desert Hot Springs Public Safety Tax Area. Mr. Buckheim?
Yeah, so this one is also continuation from the July 6th meeting. This hearing is to create Zone 49 of 2 non-residential lots. And by adopting the ordinance will allow for a special tax to be levied on the 2 properties, and this special taxes will be used to provide funding for public safety services.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing at this time. We'll take public testimony. Do I have any testimony on Zoom?
No, I do not.
Do I have anybody in the audience that would like to give any testimony? I see nobody coming forth. We'll close the public hearing at this time. Any more questions by staff or from council to staff? I see none. We'll hold the election at this time and canvass the election.
The property owner has voted in favor.
If anybody would like to make a motion to adopt the ordinance establishing a special public safety tax area, Zone 49, DHS Holdings, Investment Holdings LLC.
So moved.
Is there a second? There is a second. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very much. Item 4 is to continue from the September 7th, 2021 meeting, an ordinance amending certain sections of Chapter 17.104, hearings and appeals, in Section 17.112.020 of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code to implement a more streamlined process for appeals of directors' decisions. Just for I know Ms. Pye wasn't able to make this portion of the meeting. This item was tabled due to the fact that language was introduced that day, and the council agreed to allow it to sit for 2 more weeks for the public to have some time to review it and council to view it. Is there anything more that you need to add to the staff report, Ms. Mariah?
No, there's nothing I need to add to the staff report except for what was already presented at the prior meeting. Should City Council wish, I could do my staff report again.
I'll entertain questions. Is there any specific questions, or would anybody like the full staff report again? You may ask.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question. So the significant change from as this was originally presented was that where the first public hearing was held on something, so whatever business is germane to the public, to the planning commission, will go there. And whatever business is not germane to them would come to the council. Could that sum it up, what we have here?
I will clarify just for the record, it is matters involving landscaping, architecture, and design would go first to the planning commission, and then if further appealed to the city council. Everything else would go directly to the city council.
Give me examples of what would not go to the planning commission that would go to the council.
Something that is not landscaping, architecture, or design. So
well.
maybe so something potentially related to
Conditions of approval or
conditions of
CUP?
They would be conditions of approval specifically related to maybe infrastructure or things of that nature.
And these are really going to be directors' rulings?
That is
because
correct.
everything else is going to go through its normal process, right?
That is correct.
And these are rare situations like on appeal where the director's having a difference of opinion with the applicant, or they want to come back and say, hey, I don't like what was decided, I want to change this, right?
That is correct. They're very rare.
Does this affect something like where we had the Sky Havens residents come forward and where would they appeal first? The Planning Commission, or that I go back to the original point of public hearing, right?
So the Skies Haven specifically, I believe, was a conditional use permit before the Planning Commission. So any appeal would then come to the City Council.
Not to the Planning Commission again?
No, because the original conditional use permit was a hearing before the Planning Commission. So the appeal of the CUP would come to the City Council. In this case, this is appeal of administrative director approvals.
Got it, okay. So that one wouldn't apply to this. It would still follow the same course as it is, as it did. Okay. I think anytime, all right, I'll save my comments in case other councilmen.
Anybody have any comments, or, I'm sorry, they're entertaining questions from the City Council right now. It's not comments, just questions. Okay. We're going to open the public hearing. I know we have one speaker on Zoom. Is that all I have right now?
Yes,
All right.
Rakita Grant.
We can go ahead and let her in to the room here.
If I may, Rakita sent me a message that she is not able to make a public comment. After all, she had to leave. She did state that she typed a comment into Zoom.
Oh, okay, because she's still online, that's why. She said she was typing it just in case she had to leave.
You want to try to let her in just in case she still is there, but if not, you can read. It says, "Good evening all. I may not be..."
Is she online, Mr. Mayor? I'm sorry, point of order. I thought I heard her voice.
Okay, well, she just stated, I don't know if you heard what Ms. Whelm said, is that she just received a message from Ms. Grant saying that she's not able to make it. Did you want to, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem is not confident from our Deputy City Attorney's comment, so can you please ask her if she's available?
I'm here, excuse me, Mayor, Councilman, council members, I'm here, staff.
Thank you.
Everybody City.
Before you speak on this item, Ms. Grant, you have a comment in the box. If you wanted to read that, it's fine, but can you please state the nature of your position, in favor, in opposition, or are you making a neutral position comment?
I'm pretty much neutral. I just basically, the comment would have been sufficient. Pretty much, I can't really speak right now, so that's why I left the comment, but I'm still listening and observing. But I want you to know I'm neutral. My main concern is I would not like the commission to lose their ability to hear appeals and review appeals as it pertains to our commission. However, with the last applicant, if that we saw, that was my main concern because of the diff fees, and I didn't believe that it was within our scope to hear that. So that's my main concern and comment. That's all I have.
Thank you. And the comment in the chat reads, "Good evening all. I may not be able to stay for very long and might miss the opportunity to speak. I want you to know I am not in opposition. I am neutral. I am support the decision the council makes in the best interest of the public. But my main concern was that the applicant, our commission, heard. I would like to see an ordinance written that allows for the commission to not lose their ability to hear and review appeals pertaining to the commission. However, if it is something that needs to be heard and is applicable under the council's jurisdiction scope, please change it. I look forward to serving my community." Thank you for your comments. There's no one else on Zoom at this time?
No.
And is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this item? I see no one coming forth. We will close the public hearing at this time, and the City Council may discuss further. Is there any other comments? All right, at this time, we could take a motion introducing the first reading. Does anybody would like to make that motion?
I move we adopt the first reading for the ordinance amending certain sections, Chapter 17, and you just blocked my screen, but...
17.104, hearings and appeals, and Section 17.112.020. There is a motion by Mr. Gardner. Is there a second? Okay. Is there any more discussion before we vote? Please vote.
Motion passes with Councilmember Nunez against. This is the introduction and first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs amending certain sections of Chapter 17.104, Hearings and Appeals, and Section 17.112.020, of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code to implement a more streamlined process for appeals of directors' decisions. The ordinance will return on October 5th for second reading and adoption.
Thank you very much. We have one last item on the administrative calendar. We have no more public hearing items. We'll move to the administrative calendar. We have item number 5, which is year-end budget adjustments for the fiscal year 2020-21. Mr. Buckheim?
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to offer a few corrections. In the staff report, under the fiscal impact section, there's a paragraph that discusses the general fund. That paragraph actually should be removed. We are not requesting any budget adjustments for the general fund, and that wasn't part of the attachment. However, also on the attachment, there was a request it mentions the City Hall relocation fund. That's also done in error, and it should be removed. We are not requesting any additional funding to that fund. So what this is just we are doing budget adjustments for 6 restricted funds for increasing of budget appropriations in the amount of $196,145 for additional expenses that happened during fiscal year 2021. Some of these additional costs would be offset by additional revenue in those funds, and others will require the use of the available fund balance in those funds.
At this time, we'll take any public comments. Is there anybody on Zoom?
No.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to make any public comments towards this item? Nobody coming forward. We'll close public comments. Move to council member comments. Ms. Pye, anything? Mr. Nunez, anything else? Mr. Betts?
Yeah, I'd just like a little further clarification on what we're doing here, please. Is this stuff that was already previously budgeted?
No, these are budget adjustments. We're requesting additional budget appropriations for these 6 funds due to higher expenses. So for the Fire Development Fund, we're requesting additional budget appropriations for $30,611. General Facilities Development Fund, we're requesting additional budget appropriations for $13,643. Under the Law Enforcement Development Fund, requesting budget appropriations for $47,723. Under the Storm Drainage Development Fund, requesting budget appropriations of $57,183. Under the SB1 Road Maintenance and Rehab, we're requesting additional budget appropriation for $16,985. And under the Citywide LMD Fund, we're requesting additional appropriation for $30,000.
Okay, so none of these are, each item is a significant amount. But what you've done is we budgeted something, and now what you're saying is, hey, we anticipate that it's going to cost more than what we originally presented to council as the budgeted amount, and so we're seeking authorization to spend more money. And we haven't spent that money yet, correct?
Well, actually, no, we have. This is to clean up last fiscal year's budget. So these were expenditures that went over what was budgeted in those funds for last fiscal year.
So is this basically just a housekeeping item? Would you view that as a housekeeping item?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then I won't take any more time. Thanks.
So we can strike the City Hall relocation fund revenue then?
So actually, you can take that one out. We were not requesting anything that was done in error. We were not transferring anything more to that fund.
Mr. Gardner? This is normal items that happen at the end of each fiscal years where you have to, a budget is a document that we're supposed to, it's an estimation of funds that you're going to spend in each year accounts, and things happen, and sometimes we go over, sometimes we go under. And so the finance department, I believe by law, have to get everything to a zero balance, or at least by our policies, get everything to a zero balance by the end of the auditing period at the end of the fiscal year. So we have to balance these out, and Jeffrey doesn't have the authority, nor does the city manager, to just put money in those accounts. So they need to be appropriated by the city council to make sure that those end up at zero, correct?
Yes.
Or, is that a good summary?
Well, a good summary. It doesn't necessarily have to end up at zero, but for anything, if we need to increase any appropriations within funds, that is under the jurisdiction of the city council and need approval for that.
So just, it is kind of housekeeping, but it's very important that it's done in open session so that everybody has an opportunity to see it, and it's done in an appropriate way. Appropriate way for appropriations.
There we go.
I have nobody else that wants to speak. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. And also in your motion, can we strike that from the record saying that the City Hall relocation fund be stricken from?
Well, you know, I kind of cut myself off there.
It
I
is-
didn't include that. So removing the two items as enumerated by staff. Thanks.
There's a motion to, with the correction of those two items and that were mentioned by staff. There is a motion, a second, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
We had nothing pulled from the consent calendar, so we'll move on to future agenda items that can be discussed with the city manager's office. Do I have anybody else that popped in last minute for public comments on Zoom?
No, we do not.
I have anybody in the audience? Denise, did you want to make any comments? Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. With that said, no more further business from the city council. We are adjourned.
Recording stopped.